Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the electric eel wheel yarn counter. I've done several videos on this in the past showing you how it can count yarn, and I've also got several blog posts from beta users who are using it for different kinds of yarn, everything from super thin yarn to bulky yarn. So I'm not going to talk too much about spinning yarn today. Rather, I'm going to be talking about the changes I've made to the device since the previous update. Most of these are based on feedback from my beta testers. I think it's some really great changes, and I wanted to share with you what's being updated. Some feedback I got from both my beta testers and the community was that the previous method I had for clamping down this device onto a table was not ideal. So I had these custom angle bolts designed and some prototypes made, and these work really great. So now instead of the previous clamping system, what happens is you just insert this into the back like that, and then you use the wing nut here to sort of tighten it onto your table, and it works really great. Here, I'll just sort of show you how it works. So I've got it clamped on to my desk now, and I mean, it's really held in pretty tightly. I mean, I can still move it, but it's definitely not moving anywhere. Another really nice feature of this kind of clamping system that I decided to include was that you can put it into this side of the device, because a lot of people were saying, oh, I want to have it this way or that way. And I was like, well, is there a way to have it work both directions? And now there is. So with this clamp, you can clamp it, either this way or the other way, depending on where you want your yarn to flow on your desk when you're using it. So I really, really like this clamp. It's turned out really nice. And for those of you wondering, isn't the screen going to be upside down? Well, I've got another surprise coming in a little bit. But before I get to that one, I wanted to talk about the pulley here. So previously, my beta testers had noticed that it was possible for the yarn to sometimes slip off the pulley. So I've redesigned the size of the pulley and sort of the tolerances there. So it's even less likely that the yarn will slide or come off now. I haven't been able to get any yarn to come off now, and I was able before. So I'm really happy with how this pulley change has sort of made issues with slipping yarn or with it coming off much better. Now I'll talk a little bit about the screen change that I was mentioning before. So you can clamp it on to the desk this way, which would let you read the screen normally. So there you can we get this to focus? Hopefully that's in focus. So it can read the screen this way. But what I've done is I've added a little switch on the inside right over here. It's probably going to be hard to see in the video, but it's pretty easy to just flip it with your finger. And after flipping that switch, if we can get it to focus on the text, you'll see that everything is inverted. So if you have it clamped onto your desk upside down, it will look right side up when that switch is flipped. So I thought that was pretty clever, and it really makes the fact that you can clamp it onto your desk either this way or this way much more usable, because you can flip the screen. The buttons will still be upside down, but those are much easier to use than to read the screen upside down. So while you could have gotten around it, because it wasn't that hard to add a switch to flip the screen, I decided to do it and really make this super flexible in multiple orientations. So there were a lot of different tweaks to the software, but one that I really wanted to point out was that now the meters and yards will refer to tenths of meters. So right now it says 0.0, and if I rotate this pulley a few times, you can see that it's counting up by tenths of a meter, and eventually it'll get to 1 meter, just like that. And it's a little hard with the lighting in here, I think, to see the screen, but in real life, it's pretty easy to see the screen, and I'm pretty happy with sort of being able to give people more accurate results. I wasn't sure I wanted to add that because yarn does stretch when you're measuring it. And I don't really think that last digit is going to be useful for accuracy reasons too often. I think that just variances in how much your yarn is stretching is going to matter. But being able to see it consistently counting is really nice when you're going at slower speeds. So I did find once I added that feature that it definitely was useful for me just when I'm using the device. So I was pretty happy with that change. Another nice software change that I added was this yarn WPI, so that's wraps per inch. And basically you can adjust this between a few fixed settings that I added. So for really bulky yarn, you'd use 8 wraps per inch, and for very fine yarn, you'd use 80. And for each of these values in between, I sort of picked settings that will limit the error that you get when counting yarn to just a few percent. So I'll ship a card with it that has these wraps per inch, and you'll easily be able to measure your yarn. And then it'll ship with this set to 80. And if you measure thicker yarn, it'll actually undercount. But if you want to come in here and adjust this when you're using some thicker yarns, then the values that it measures will be more accurate. And I went into exactly the math behind this a little bit in a previous video, so I won't do it. But basically, this extra setting allows you to reduce the amount of error you're getting by up to, I think it was 9% or something. So your error when using this will just be a few percent. So I really like this setting, and my beta testers have been using it, and it seems to work great. I will mention that we found that for different kinds of yarn in our testing that there's better ways to sort of put it onto the pulley. And I'll have user guides about all of this more on, but I sort of wanted to show people the different options right now. So the most common way of threading the yarn is to go all the way around the pulley just like that. And then there's really no way it can slip no matter what your tension, and that's kind of the preferred method for most yarns. But if you get really bulky yarns, sometimes just going halfway around through the bottom will work better. Whoops. And like that. And for super bulky yarns, just going around the top will work. And the reason I don't do these top or bottom methods all the time is because it's possible for the yarn to slip off or to slip on the pulley a little bit if you're using really fine yarns. So going all the way around is better for finer yarns, just to make sure nothing ever miscounts. But for bulky yarns, it makes it work with a little bit thicker yarns when you sort of thread it these different ways. So I found that, my beta testers found that doing those different methods works really well for different kinds of yarn, and it'll support all of them. But for most, you'll go all the way around like I did the first time, where you just take it, you go around the pulley fully, and this just really eliminates any possibility for slippage. So right now, I want to talk about the last change I've made, and I made the buzzer much louder. So some people had trouble hearing it in the last video, and my beta testers definitely said that the loudness of the buzzer was not ideal. So I've got a buzzer that's about 10 times louder than my previous one, and this one you should have no problem hearing. So I'll probably make that buzzer a little bit shorter. I've been noticing it is kind of annoying now that it's really easy to hear. It doesn't need to be that long, but I have it set to sort of go off when it hit 5 meters there. And those are the big changes that I've been making to the yarn counter during the past few months. Hopefully you guys like them, and definitely give me some feedback. I'm getting to the point right now where I'm almost running out of time to accept big, significant changes to the design, and I'm going to start updating the design for manufacturability. And then at that point, once I'm pretty far along in the manufacturability design updates, then I'll be ready to launch a Kickstarter. I expect it'll be ready hopefully sometime in the first half of next year. But I haven't really finalized my schedule for anything yet. So that's just sort of an estimate, and we'll see how it goes. Once I launch the Kickstarter, as always, I'll have a really detailed schedule and have much more confidence in the time frame, but I just haven't gotten to that point. So right now it's kind of looking like, if everything goes really smoothly, maybe a few more months of work before I'm ready to launch a Kickstarter, but it could also be, up to 6 months if I want to make some more changes. And making changes is good. That means it's going to be even better. But at this point, it really is getting to be a pretty good design. So if you have any feedback, definitely let me know. And thanks for watching.